So one of the things about the history of my first, like when I was young and I got married, I was actually 19 when um, we got married. Um, he was the seventh person that had ever proposed to me. And I think I was pretty worn down at that point. I was just like, Anyway, he wasn't the best choice. But one of the interesting things about him was I never, ever dated anybody with the physique of Fred Zirkle. And it was because, like, the abuse and the size differential because of what he did. So everybody was very shocked that, I was getting married to somebody. First, I probably weighed more than he did. And I think at some point, like, Candace and I made a joke about how our thighs were bigger than, our husband's thighs, which was true. The other thing was, like, I needed to feel like I had a fighting chance being married to a man. That's how scarred I was. So here I am. It's end of February 2022. At the end of November 2021, I have moved into this house from one place in Escalante to a different place in Escalante. And this house had been vacant for a long time, and it was really, really old. And it was, like, surprisingly small, like less than 900 square feet. The owner was this elderly old lady. She owned 4 properties, and during my first marriage, we had bought, fixed up, and sold lots of properties. I learned so much about the steps of and they were always old properties. I couldn't do any electrical on any major scale. I wouldn't do tile ever again after doing that on an uneven floor. And most of the other stuff I was fine with. So this house is kind of cute, and I think it's gonna be fine. And my new landlady, her name was Rolane Alvey, and she's related to the whole town. That's the secret about Escalante, is who moved there later, and everybody else who has moved there, that is not native to there. And those, the whole town is related to each other. So she sends over, the handyman guy. He lives in town. I've lived in town for over a year, but I've never met him. And one day he just comes, I'm fixing up the house. Every single window is broken. It was some cheap kind of plasticky windows. They're all off track, and I'm getting dowels and getting them cut to the right height and wedging them in so it's not a security risk. I'm putting hundreds of dollars into this house. She says I can paint anything, any color I want, but I just didn't want to spend money that way. She had curtains, or the person that had been there before me had curtains up, but I didn't want my color. I already had furniture. So, and also the house is heated in a way I had never seen before. It's heated by diesel. And I've dealt with a lot of old houses, but diesel was weird. It was weird. And at that time, it was crazy expensive. Like, you had this huge diesel tank. I mean, I'd seen propane tanks, but I've never seen like a diesel tank. And to fill that sucker up, gas was over $5 a gallon. So it was, I don't know, $500 or $600 to fill that up. And then you don't know, like, you know, I don't know how it's going to heat. So anyway, the kitchen also, I mean, all the electrical is super shady in the house. It was like very big. There's 4 power boxes like throughout the house, like switches, electrical switches, and I mean, I'm like every time, and the power is tripping all the time. And every time I am searching for which power box, it makes no rhyme or reason. But like in the kitchen, there's a ceiling, and then there was like a drop ceiling. And then like it had a whole bunch of fluorescent lights, but then there was like plastic that was kind of like pushed up in there that hung down. And like bugs and things are like, there's no plastic when I move in, and bugs and like dead things are like falling into the kitchen. And like the kitchen wasn't a selling point for me. It was a terrible kitchen with like no dishwasher, and the fridge was from 1960. It was cracked then. It had mold, but I figure I'm good at cleaning. I'm like, it'll be fine. So this handyman like comes by, and I don't look. Okay, I had lived in New Zealand, and when my kids and I moved to New Zealand, I wasn't familiar with how houses or anything was heated, and we were told that like somebody there was like scaring us to death. They were Americans that had moved there, and they said electrical here in New Zealand is so expensive, and the winters they are colder than anything I've ever experienced. And I've been in like wind chill 20 below, skiing on a hill in Utah, and this was 10,000 times colder, which made no sense because we had like lemon trees. We had citrus, we had gardens blooming, and it didn't snow. But I have never felt cold like that before. But here's this like guy, he's like, you are not going to be able to afford, like they have these things which are called like heat pumps, and they're electrical. And he's like, yeah, like you're not going to be able to afford your electrical bill. So I was super freaked out when we moved there. I was like, I didn't expect the cold, but I wouldn't turn on the heat pump because I was so scared. And so I was just layering, like me and my kids, we just layered like layers. So here I am now in Escalante, and this house is pretty cold, and I don't know anything. I mean, I got the diesel tank like filled, but I don't really I don't understand the system. So the house is really cold, but I don't care. I'm alone. I'm actually like working on switching out, like I have a lot of things in storage from remodeling multiple houses. So I've got like outlets, new outlets and covers. I have, and I'm just doing physical work on parts of the house that have to be done when there's a knock on the door. And it was, and I opened the door, and it's the handyman for the property. His name is Rick Howell, and he was sent by the owner to measure the holes in the kitchen ceiling light. And like I show him, I go back on, like I really have like 4 layers of sweats. Like I have like wool long johns and like a pair of black men's Costco sweats. Like, I'm just bulky and I don't care, and I'm in the middle of like doing work. And he makes a comment like about how cold it is. Like, it's not bothering me. Like, I just am dressed for it, and you know, I'm in the middle of my task, and that's fine. So he gets the measurements, like we chit chat for a minute, and then he leaves. He's like, I'm gonna have to like, order this, and I'm gonna like cut it, and then like I'll come back and install it. And I'm like, that's great. See you later, bye. And he leaves. And the next day, like I had moved things in, but I had not. I had emptied storage containers, and I was, moving, my washer and dryer, and I was setting up house, basically. I brought down like this huge table, and there was nowhere to put the table. And then there's a knock on the door. I open it, and it's this guy, and he has this huge box, and like it's actually wrapped like a gift, and it has like even a bow on top of it, like. And I am kind of like mortified. Like, he's like, I noticed it was like really cold, and he's like trying to push this like, and I'm like, no, like I can't take this gift, like no. And he's like, no, you have to, and like then he like takes off, and I unwrap it, and it's like a weird contraption I've never. I don't know what they call them. I think it's like an electric radiator. Like, I unwrap the thing and see it's this contraption, and I don't know much about it. And all I know is, like, first of all, like, I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, I'm not financially needy, and I don't know his situation, but he doesn't, he's not the kind of guy I would date. He's not, I don't know, like now I'm like in this like, kind of weird feeling obligation. I'm like going to make sure that he, takes this thing. It probably was around $100. The house was cold because I didn't care at this point. Like, I really wasn't aware of it, and I didn't care. And so, how do I explain this guy? Like, I had only been married twice. I, as a member of the church, I had only ever had sex with my husband once. I was married, which is, the covenants you make in the temple, and I really believed in that. And these were people, both of them, who had been members, and not that I, had a only date members rule, but my time after my first marriage, but my time after the second marriage, after I came back from New Zealand, I was dating like very successful and very intelligent, they were prominent business leaders in Utah. And I'm stupidly like picky. Like, for me, with men, a lot of times, like, and maybe it's like due to whatever, quirky Mormon, but a lot of times, first of all, they're not really interested a lot in who I am as a person. But like if I tick a couple boxes for them on their criteria, like they're like, check, okay, like, yeah, you're good. And I had an experience with I mean, dating some of the wealthiest, men in the state, and this one guy was a like a recent widower, and we'd only been dating like 2 months, and he started, like, I could tell because we were both like on Pinterest. He started pinning wedding rings, and I freaked out. Like, I broke up with him so fast. I was like, no, this is too fast. And here's one of the problems, especially my second marriage. I was the person who left, but I was also the only person that was putting in the work. So, when you make bad choices, I see a lot of people, especially on TikTok, a lot of guys going like, where are they women? And like, what do you mean you're done with men? It's not that I don't. First of all, it's not that I don't want to, be with a man in an ideal situation. Like, I hate to say this, but everything in my life, like, has primed me for, there's actually a quote, the pinnacle of this mortal existence is in marriage, can be found in the right marriage with two people who are equally committed. So I believe that, like, with the bottom of my heart. But first of all, my first husband was especially like wildly a cheater and lived the complete double life. And I thought that was very, like, alarming at the time. And now every time I'm on TikTok and all these sites, all these things, I'm not going to say like it happens more for women than men, or I don't know. I'm just saying like cheating is so endemic and seems more the norm. That when I was married the first time, and he had a corn addiction, which in the church was like considered, especially kind of in the beginning, that was infidelity. And psychology has a lot to say on that subject, but yeah, leading the double life. And I suddenly, like, when we were seeking counseling and help to, for him, suddenly I'm labeled codependent. Like, somebody is living a double life, and they like, it suddenly is revealed. And for our marriage, that was like not very long into the marriage. Suddenly it's like revealed, and like I have like some psychological issue. I'm not saying I don't, but like I suddenly, like, during counseling, I'm going to, like, he's going to Sexaholics Anonymous, and I'm in like the equal, like, wives group. And I just, like, one of the things all these years and years of therapy teaches you is, you don't really, like, at the point where you feel like you have to be searching through someone's pockets and like searching their phone, or like just checking if they're cheating, like, that's already a bad situation. If you think that they're dishonest, like, it's kind of over. Like, whether they are or not, in my opinion. I don't want to be wondering that. The other thing is, you get to a place where I don't trust myself as a woman. I don't trust myself to make a good choice. After my first marriage ended, and I am mandated that I have a year of like counseling, therapy, whatever, to like get my head right, at least at minimum 1 year. And I did that, and did the same thing at the end of my second. But you go in after the first one going on, I am not going to make those same mistakes. So I don't know, this last year has been a year I don't think most people could survive. But, and I can't speak for other women, but I wouldn't. I don't trust myself. I don't trust myself. I'm too naive. I'm too trusting. I'm too forgiving, and I have the ability to overlook, and I can give, and I can love like nobody you ever met, and I can excuse tons of bad behavior, and I'm not a good candidate